Kenya resumed international flights on Saturday last week with the hopes of reviving its tourism industry. The country's cabinet secretary for tourism, however, admits that this year is as good as lost. We are now joined by SABC correspondent Sarah Kimani. Sarah, a very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Just how badly affected was the tourism industry in that country?
Good evening, Simpiwe, and thank you for having me. I'm coming to you live from the Masai Mara. This is the home of the wildebeest migration, and also which is known as the eighth wonder of the world. And indeed, Kenya has said that this year is as good as lost in terms of its tourism earnings. The tourism cabinet secretary is saying it is likely that the economy will lose up to 80% of the projected revenue for this year. And about 90% of the international tourism arrivals that were expected this year may not be possible. So to just understand how much the industry has been affected, whether it is the hospitality industry, the aviation industry, I am joined by Mr. Duncan Mwangi, and he is a lodge manager here at the Masai Mara. He will be telling us more about his job, but also how the industry has been affected. Now, Mr. Mwangi, thank you very much for joining us. How much has the hospitality industry been affected? How much has tourism been affected in this country?
The local hospitality industry has taken a big step back since the onset of COVID-19 in March. We've seen a number of cancellations, especially throughout the year, and particularly with both international and local tourism. This is because of the cessation of movement and the ban on both international and local flights. However, recently, with the 15th of July, when local flights were actually allowed in, and from the 1st of August, when international flights were allowed in, we're starting to see a bit of revival of that.
Well, some people will say this is not the first time the tourism industry has been here. We've had times when there has been post-election violence, which may have affected the industry. Would you compare the two? Would you say this is like the post-election violence, or what can you compare this to?
I wouldn't say that this is like the post-election violence. Post-election violence was regional within just the country itself, but this is global. The effects of it are far-reaching, and it's a complete change of the game moving on.
Is it a total collapse of the industry, and what do you think will happen moving forward when you project for the industry?
I wouldn't say it's a total collapse. The hospitality industry in Kenya particularly is very resilient. As I said, with the ease of the cessation of movement, we've actually seen a lot of local tourists coming in. We opened our doors on the 15th of July. And ever since, in as much as we opened with a reduced inventory in view of the WHO guidelines and the Government of Kenya Ministry of Health protocols, we're actually seeing a big demand every other time.
We will come to the health protocols, but first we will talk about the issue of local tourism. The Kenyan government now looking to local tourism, or what we call domestic tourists, to support the industry. Is that enough? Can they be able to revive the economy or the industry?
To be very honest, the local tourists have actually picked it up very well, and I can say for sure that they will keep the industry afloat. With local tourism, it will not die. We still need the international tourists, and that's part of the reason why we have put all the measures we've put in place as part of the players in the industry.
Tell us about these measures. What do I need to do to come to a hotel or to spend a night in a hotel, whether here in the Masai Mara or in the country in general?
To start with, the measures start all the way from the moment that you're booking. Originally, some of your personal details we would ask you when you're checking in at the counter, but now we're actually doing it way in advance to just enhance and make sure that we're actually giving contactless services. Then on arrival, we will have a non-invasive temperature check, which means that in line with that, we also have the isolation protocol just in case someone needs to be isolated. But then you will also find out that we will be disinfecting your bags, your luggage handles, your luggage rollers. Then you'll move to reception where we have, you'll also need to sanitize your hands. You'll also need to wash your hands at some stages. then you'll have to obey and keep to social distancing, wear the face masks that we are wearing now, which is a change of the game, because the hospitality industry is known being a people's industry, where you actually see the smiles. Now you've got to reinvent, and you have to be able to show those smiles with your body language and not just with your face.
Have you heard whether in your hotel or across the country, have hotels have had to let people go? Are people who have lost their jobs? The Kenyan Cabinet Secretary for Tourism spoke about 2 million Kenyans losing their jobs. Is it the same in the hotel industry?
Yes, the hotel industry was not spared. 3 months of shutdown meant that a number of people did go home. But it's also good to see that, as I say, the industry is resilient and people are starting to come back, though not in the same numbers. And it will take a while before the effects ease out and we go back to what we used to call the normal then, because now we are on the new normal.
How long can it take for an industry like yours to recover as we wind up?
I think it will take a little bit longer. We will live with the effects for much longer, but I believe every other day we are learning. Nobody has been in a time like this, but where everybody takes the corrective measures and ensures that we keep the distances, we wear our masks, we sanitize, then we are likely to flatten the curve globally and not just in the country, and that will soon take us back to where we used to be.
Indeed, all of us are looking forward to when the curve will be flattened. Now, Simpiwe, just to let our audience know, is that Kenya makes at least 8% of GDP, tourism contributes at least 8% of the country's GDP. And so any effects that are felt in the tourism industry will, of course, have ripple effects on other areas, on sectors of the country's economy. That is just one of the stories that we'll be bringing you from the Mara tomorrow. We'll be bringing you the faces of the people who have actually lost their livelihoods or lost their jobs. Thank you very much for having us from Nairobi.
All right, Sarah Kimani, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for your time. That was our correspondent in Kenya, Sarah Kimani, at the Masai Mara, wherein there was that, massive migration of wildebeest from the Serengeti in Tanzania. And it's, as you just heard there, it's one of the 8 wonders of the world.